Today, I'm finally putting my gearbox in. Alright, so I know a few of you have been waiting for the next part. I myself have been waiting for the next part. I've just been way too busy in the shop. I mean, it's good that I'm busy, but I think I've pushed this thing on and off the hoist, wanting to put the gearbox in about 20 times. So we'll shit under the car and have a look at some of the little things that I have managed to do since the last video. Okay, so I think I left off in the last video with the engine just sitting in the engine bay. Not a lot has changed, but what I have done is I've just put a lot of thought into my crank trigger situation. So the Kia motor has a 60-2 trigger wheel. You can see the teeth on it here on the flywheel. What I've basically done is I've found a spot in my bell housing, bored a hole in it with a die grinder. I've got a crank sensor. I believe it might be out of a Hyundai or something. That also looked very similar to the style of, basically there was a spot in the gearbox, like a boss, like a U-shaped boss with a bolt hole already threaded into it, like tapped into it. So it looked like the right style to fit into there if I made a hole, basically. So we'll have a look in the bell housing in a sec. So this Ford Econovan bell housing, which the Econovan came out with an FE single cam motor. The gearbox is the same shape and casting as a RX-7 gearbox, or I thought I had a Courier gearbox with this car, but it's actually out of a Mazda B2600. So all those boxes are basically the same in inverted commas. But it's, it was $109 from the wreckers, so it's still going to be a lot better than the original HB gearbox, the early series Mazda gearboxes. They're good. If this car was NA, that gearbox would be fine, but probably behind a turbo car, break it pretty quickly. I've just machined this out, this boss here. I started with the big drill bit, 13mm drill bit, and then moved up to the die grinded it out. I went and got a sensor. I think it's out of a Hyundai, and you can see it's, it actually looks pretty tidy, lines up with that threaded boss that's already in there. So it's the bell housing just sitting on the back of the motor. That's where the crank sensor will go, right there. Alright, it's pretty hard to see, but I've basically marked that tooth there. This tooth here is the top dead center tooth. So we're basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 teeth. So the sensor is 11 teeth ahead of where it's meant to be. It was 6 degrees per tooth, so 11 sixes is 66. So 66 degrees as an offset trigger setting in the ECU to bring that back to where it's meant to be. If that doesn't work, I'll have to physically move this trigger wheel. But yeah, that'd be more of a machine shop job, I think. I don't reckon that's a job that I can do myself, so give this a go first. Alright, so my camera went flat. It's getting pretty late. You might have heard me mention in a previous video that it's pretty much impossible to film on here with lights and stuff, so run into a few hurdles. The back of this block has some crazy huge large thread pitch for the bolts, so I don't have bolts that can actually bolt this gearbox on. The gearbox with this bell housing is, you can see this mount here is on an angle, so the whole box is kicked over on an angle. It's probably not going to affect it. The shifter does line up with the hole still, which I'm really stoked about. Yeah, I've basically quickly just had some blue steel laying around. I've knocked up this quick Crossmember. I've pretty much just, you know, hole sawed a hole so I can get onto the nut and then drilled a hole through. So there's a nut up in there. I've utilised 2 bolts on each side up into the floor, 2 of the factory bolt holes. And then, yeah, you can see how I've had to kick it down and kick it down here to compensate for this angle. I'll probably do a little bit nicer job of this. I'll probably go over some dodgy spots of it again with the MIG and cap these off and all that kind of thing, give it a nice grind and a paint. All right, so it's the next day. I've had some food and some beers and a good sleep, even shaved. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with how this has come out. It's a little bit kooky looking with the angle. The drain plug for the gearbox is still at the lowest point. I think what I'm going to do now though is just whip this crossmember out. I want to cap the ends, tidy it up, maybe gusset it in here, just triangulate it a bit, tidy up some of the welds, make it a bit stronger, and then I think it should be good to go. So rip that out and then the throw some paint on it and it'll be done.
Five minutes later.
'Professionally tightening stuff. Should have just ugga-duggered it. So I went around to my local car parts store and they actually had the correct length and thread pitch bolts that I needed, which I'm surprised, but yeah, I'm gonna whack those in the bell housing and then this will all be bolted together. I'm pretty excited. So that's it for today. This is a huge milestone for the car. I've been walking past this thing for about a month, wondering how I'm going to get the gearbox in and wondering how I'm going to mount the crank sensor and all that kind of stuff. So now that that's done, now I've got the engine seated where it needs to be, so I can start doing inlet manifold, exhaust manifold, putting the power steering pump, air conditioning on, alternator, you know, get the tail shaft sorted, put the shifter in, all lots of little, you know, small jobs like that. I can put the aircon condenser, radiator, intercooler, everything back in. So hopefully it should start to come together pretty quickly now. So make sure you like and subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to keep updated. Check out my Patreon. Thanks for watching and thanks for supporting the channel. I'm just going to quickly jump in there and just show you guys what to expect next video because some stuff has happened. So the Cosmo bonnet is on. Cool Japanese stuff. And aircon, power steering and alternator brackets have been made. So got the aircon compressor just mounted real low in there. 5mm plate brackets. Shifted my power steering pump and alternator over to this side. So this actually mounts like an EL Falcon alternator, high output alternator. And then I think I used the Kia pump down there. And I got this. So this is a GT30 on a SR20 manifold. I've had myself a flange cut out for an FE3, so as you can see, they are very, very close. So I'm going to cut the SR20 flange off and modify it a little bit and put the FE3 flange on there. Be all ready to make boosty noises. Oh yeah, that's going to look sweet. That'll be next episode. Cheers for watching.